gentleman has had a chainsaw injury to his head. The laceration is about 25 centimetres long. We want to make sure that we're set up to manage all the complications of a chainsaw injury, which might not just be an isolated head injury.
61-year-old Mark was using a chainsaw to trim branches on his rural property when the accident happened.
Initially, I'm worried about, is he actively bleeding an enormous amount of blood? And then I'm really worried about a brain injury.
A chainsaw through the head.
Nurse Lucy Stranger has arrived at work just in time to help Dr. Sarah and the team.
And you're getting some bloods.
Mark is conscious and in shock.
That's shivering, just shock shivering.
This is Mark, 61, was operating a chainsaw, was unseen, believed to have picked up and struck him right on the top of the head from the hairline back 25 centimetres and opened up about a 3 centimetre gash. He was found by his friends in an altered conscious state. They stemmed the wound. They didn't describe it as spurting, but heavily seeping. The only strange thing is he's very hard of hearing. He says that's new.
How are you feeling?
Sore.
Yeah, where are you sore?
Middle of my back, top of my head, back of my neck.
What we don't want to do in a case like Mark's is get distracted by the fact that he's got a very big cut on his head. If it's not actively bleeding and he's not literally bleeding to death on the floor, then we're probably going to ignore that until we've made sure that other things are stabilised.
Dr. Sarah's priority is an ultrasound to see if Mark has any life-threatening internal injuries.
I know you probably can't hear me. Yeah.
Sorry.
I said I'm going to do a scan of your tummy just to make sure there's no injury to the tummy because it sounds a bit unclear exactly what's gone on. Deep breath in. Good man, good man.
If we find evidence of a ruptured lung or bleeding around the heart or bleeding into the abdomen, and if we don't address that, then that's something that can cause someone to die within minutes.
The doctor is going to poke down your back, say whether it hurts or not.
No.
You all done, Sarah? Yeah.
Nurse Lucy and Dr. Sarah Whitelaw examine Mark's whole body, and the only injury so far appears to be his deep head wound.
We're looking for things like, is the skull fractured? Are we able to see brain on view? Does this person need to go to the operating theatre straight away to relieve bleeding that's causing pressure on the brain?
So we're just going to take the bandage off and have a look at what's under the bandage.
The dressing put on by paramedics has to be removed carefully.
We do know that that bandage might be solving a lot of the problem of keeping the wound together, and when we remove it, that suddenly a whole lot more bleeding could happen.
How long does it, how far does it extend down the back?
All the way down here.
Okay. You can irrigate it a bit, but I wouldn't get in there with a syringe and really irrigate it. We can do that when we get back from scans. You're doing well. We're just putting the dressing back on. That big Mr. Bump dressing that you had on was great. We'll do another one of those.
It's a temporary fix before surgery.
I've got that neck, so you're right to feel a bit.
You're doing amazing. Penny, do you know what he was doing today?
Mark's wife Penny has arrived, and Nurse Lucy is making sure she's prepared for Mark's confronting head wound.
What he was doing with a chainsaw, I have no idea. Anyone's guess.
We don't want him to move his head because we're just trying to protect his neck. Now his hands look gruesome. There's blood everywhere. Your head seems to do that.
I know.
Yeah,
He's done it
exactly.
before, it's all right.
Brilliant.
With the chainsaw.
No, other instruments. He looks messy. He's got a massive cut through his head. And if I saw that on somebody I loved, I'd be horrified. It can be really, really terrifying. Yeah, if you haven't been forewarned, that one moment can be quite haunting. Mark?
Hello, darling. How are you?
Can't hear you.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
I'll bring it down, Penny, just so you can get into him.
hearing is bad.
I know. I know.
Mark isn't good, and Lucy needs to get to him quickly.
You right, Pen? It's okay. Burping or... Mark,
Hi.
do you feel sick?
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
Nurse Lucy needs to roll Mark on his side to stop him from choking on vomit, which could kill him.
Do you want to come and tape up the back of this head? Well, don't touch the bandage if we can help it, but if you want to do a supporting bandage, great.
Mark's terrible wound is bleeding a lot, and it'll need closing in the operating theatre.
We're still unsure as to whether Mark's got a brain injury underneath that big cut. So it's important that he goes to the CT scanner first and see whether or not he's got a brain injury, particularly an ongoing bleed in the brain that's going to get worse. That's the thing that is a bit unknown at this stage.
61-year-old Mark is on his way for a CT scan. If his skull is fractured, there could be bleeding to the brain, all because of a freak accident.
All right, Mark, we're going to roll you like we did before. I want you to stay nice and still. We'll do all the work.
The CT doesn't show any signs of significant ongoing bleeding in the brain. What it does show is a neck fracture. So very pleased that we had protected that neck. It also shows that he has a rib fracture and he does have a punctured lung on one side.
Mark's list of serious injuries is growing, and his wife Penny's trying to reassure him.
I'm buggered.
I know. But you're still alive, so that's good.
You can go.
I'm not going.
It turns out, Mark is a bit unlucky when it comes to heavy-duty tools.
He's put a pickaxe through his head before. They bounce, apparently.
The bandage covering Mark's head wound needs changing again. Penny doesn't want to look, but doesn't want to leave his side.
So no skull fracture or these.
He's losing a lot of blood from the head wound, and the bandages aren't enough to stem the flow.
We're going to staple your head back together.
Well, the sheet's absolutely covered in blood. So.
Yeah.
This time, the procedure's too distressing for Penny.
Keep your head really still, okay?
Stapling is an option that's very effective at closing the skin quickly and putting it under tight tension, which will put pressure on the blood vessels and stop the bleeding. We know that Mark has to go to the operating theatre. He's going to need that wound washed out and repaired in several layers, which will take a bit of time, but we don't have that time. We need to get on and stop the bleeding now.
Sure.
2 days ago, chainsaw accident victim Mark was airlifted to the Royal Melbourne Hospital, hemorrhaging from a massive head injury. Dr. Sarah and her trauma team stemmed the blood flow by stapling his head together as a temporary measure before surgery.
I'm buggered.
I know. But you're still alive, so that's good.
Morning, Mark.
The 61-year-old is now recovering after surgeons repaired his head wounds.
I was just cleaning up some dead trees and doing a bit of work to make sure the place was safe. It's safe for everybody except for me. There's a fracture in my neck, there's one in my back, I've got a couple of fractured ribs. So I've done it pretty badly.
The good news is Mark's hearing has returned after it was damaged by the blow. He's also remembered how the accident actually happened.
I was cutting down a dead tree, and then I turned around and put the chainsaw down, and the tree had swung and then hit me.
So it wasn't a chainsaw that fell on his head, it was the tree. And being a world-renowned ecologist, he knows exactly what type of tree it was.
It was a blue gum, Eucalyptus globulus. It's very common on the Victorian coast west of Melbourne.